Hold on. All right, go for it.
I'm bringing the meeting to order for the Planning and Zoning in Warrington, Missouri.
That might help you.
Okay, we have a public hearing on Orchland site plan and the Promenade and Shops Plan Unit Development.
So we'll open up the Orchland site plan, SP 160.
Okay, we're opening up the Warrington site plan for SP 160.
Right. As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I'll ask that the publication notice published in the Warren County Record be made part of the record. By reference, the city comprehensive plan, the city ordinances be made part of the record by reference. A planning and zoning officer's report be made part of the record by reference. This project is going to be the Orchland's Farm and Home Retail Store, Site Plan 160. Kyle Miller, on behalf of Orchland's Property, requests and review an approval of the proposed site plan to build a 39,365 square foot Orchland Farm and Home building on the 5.1 acre parcel of land directly north of the Schnook store. The property is Zone C3 Highway Commercial. The site plan shows construction of the building and associated improvements on the site. The subject site is Zone C3 Commercial District and is surrounded by properties of the same classification. The proposal is consistent with Chapter 405 regulations of the Warren Municipal Code. All items and notices as required by state and local law have been provided and completed. Recommended conditions to ensure lighting fixtures located on the north and west side of the property does not cause glare or create a nuisance on to the parcels to the east and west or to traffic to the north on Highway 70. We have representatives here from Orchlands if you have any questions for me.
Would anybody from Orchlands like to get up and speak? Oh, yes, so sorry, sir.
Good evening. I'm Joe Snodgrass with Orchland Properties. We have been working here for the last year or so trying to put this plan together for this piece of property, and are looking forward to hopefully building a new store here. We already have a store here located in Warrington. This new store will probably be more than twice the size of that store, and will look a whole lot better. So the thing that
Should be a clicker, right?
right here.
Yeah.
You get a point up here. Click to the right.
There, yep. There you go.
There we go. Okay. The proposed site, like they said, was contiguous to Snook's store between it and I-70. We plan to have outdoor, we call it a bullpen, on the north side of the building between the building and I-70. That'll house all of the fencing materials, some implements, things like that that we can store outside and sell outside. One of the biggest challenges on this is on the southern end or the western end, eastern end of this piece of property. It's been graded to where it falls off pretty much, so we're going to have to put in a pretty good retaining wall there to be able to have enough parking and drive area to subsidize the store. And that's the site plan that Tim had showed you earlier. One of the other challenges that we've run into is the proximity of a Native American marker tree that happens to be on this property, just barely on this property. We have done quite a bit of due diligence in we've contacted a certified arborist to help us assess the tree. It's showing some stress, and we wanted to get a professional opinion on the condition of that tree. and what we really need to do to protect it. So between the arborist and the Department of Conservation, we have come up with a pretty good guideline on what we need to do in order to protect that tree. And we actually went back and revised our site plan to be able to meet those requirements. As you can see up there in that one corner, we've got about 120 foot diameter area that we're going to stay off of and not do anything to. No, we won't even let equipment or anything be on there in order to try to protect this tree. There, in your packet, I believe there is a report from the arborist that kind of goes through and tells you what the condition of that tree is. It does have some distress for showing now that it wasn't even showing a year ago when we first started this project. This will be a look from the bridge going over I-70. You can see the retaining wall there and what we plan to do there. We want to try to keep the look of the building complement Snooks' building that's already there. And we also want to give it more of a rustic farm feel. So we're planning on putting a rail fence on top of that retaining wall, a wood rail fence to kind of help with that look and feel. Buildings themselves are pretty simple. They're a pre-engineered metal building. All the roof will slope on the main building, will slope to the back, where we will collect it and take it to the existing detention basins that are developed on the site. The back of the building is where we'll have our shipments. It's where we've proposed to put the trash dumpster. We're going to enclose it so nobody can see it, but we're going to be bringing our trucks through the back side of Snooks, and then we'll have a pit dock back there, and then a big turnaround back there for the trucks to be able to turn around and exit back out the same way they came in. It's a recent photo of the marker tree. As you can see, there's some dead canopy in there already. One of the things that the arborist had recommended was that we treat that area to kind of help stabilize the tree and try to promote root growth back into the tree to help save it or prolong its life. There's no guarantee on that, but we're willing to do that to try to help promote its life. One of the things he also recommended was go in and cut the dead canopy out, the dead branches out of it. We're willing to do that too. We want to be good stewards of the community and are willing to work with the city and the local historical society and the Daughters of the American Revolution to make that a successful, make this a successful project. This is an existing aerial of the site taken off of Google Earth. It's dated August of last year. And this was an aerial site taken in 2018 when most of the grading was done. And you can see that there was quite a bit of grading that was done around this tree and the site. And this is an aerial of 2016, and as you can see, there was a lot of protection around that tree at the time with other vegetation. And when you change the habitat of that tree that much, then you can expect it to have some problems of continuing on. And then this is just a blowed up photo of what we plan to do with the retaining wall and the fence and the railing. The retaining wall actually stick up about 6 inches taller than a kind of a perimeter sidewalk, and that's primarily, that sidewalk's going to have a full curb on it so we can control drainage. But more importantly, it'll keep vehicles from running into my fence and tearing it up. So just wanted to kind of show you what we had in mind there. And that's it. I'd welcome any questions that you may have.
Is your existing store going to be replaced with this new one?
Yes, we'll be moving completely out of that location.
And then you said the trucks are going to be going through the same route that the Schnucks trucks go through, which is like, I think it's in the back
Yes.
way. So I'm
Correct.
assuming that all of the entrances that Schnucks uses is the same entrances that you're going to be using for customers, which is there's,
Well, primarily where we would bring our trucks in is in the furthest west entrance, and that's primarily for delivery.
Okay.
There'll be a little bit of customer traffic from Schnucks out of there, from their parking to the south, but the majority of it will be delivery
okay.
type vehicles.
I think I'll probably have some questions, but I'll take that up when we're at that further in the agenda. My apologies for being late also.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, our second thing is the Promenade.
Wait. Check and see if there's any public.
Oh, okay. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to make a comment about the new store that they're bringing?
Okay.
Since there is no, then we'll go on to the next one. The Promenade at the Shops Planned Unit Development, CCPUD-88.
Okay. As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I will ask that the publication notice published in Warren County Record be made part of the record. And by reference, the city comprehensive plan and the city's ordinance be made part of the record by reference. The planning and zoning officer report be made part of the record by reference. This is going to be the Promenade at the Shop, zone change and plan unit development, PUD 88. Art King, Promenade at the Shops LLC, has submitted an application for a proposed 99-unit apartment building at 1000 Warrington Shops. It's located on the west end of the complex and the east side of Rural King. The applicant has submitted an application for a preliminary plat to subdivide and rezone the 3.01 acre parcel at Warrington Shops as required by section 405.125 to build multifamily housing. The proposal is not consistent with the Warrington Comprehensive Plan and future land map use, and the proposal is consistent with Chapter 405 regulations of the Warrington Municipal Code. All items and notices as required by state and local law have been provided and completed. The applicant's here with engineer and an architect to answer any questions. Do you have any for me?
Open it up to the applicant.
I open it up for the comments from the people that are doing this project.
My name is Arthur King. I'm with Raw Walters Properties. We own the shopping center, the Warrington Shops at Warrington. The reason we've built this apartment, or trying to build this apartment complex is we bought the shopping center about 5 years ago and have had a pretty difficult time leasing it up. We got the interchange approved with the city's help, fortunately, and that really helped. And that was part of me purchasing the shopping center, was the fact that we could get that interchange approved. And then we got Rural King to come in because we got better access to the shopping center. And Rural King's doing great. Shopping center is doing pretty good, except the pandemic hit. That slowed us our leasing up for about 2 years. We were on a pretty good track there, and we've recovered pretty good since the pandemic. We're about 75% occupied. but I kind of was hoping more rooftops would have been built around that new interchange. And I was kind of surprised when it didn't happen. However, I do understand the pandemic slowed down quite a bit of everything around the world. So I started thinking about how can we get more rooftops closer, and that's when I came up with the idea of this mid-rise apartment complex, where tenants of the apartments could walk over to the shops, eat dinner there, have all their services right there within walking distance, and it would not only help the shops and the tax base and the job base of that shopping center to kind of bolster it up, I feel. I thought employees of the shopping center may even want to have a closer place to live. So I thought maybe it could kind of work hand in hand. And so we started coming up with different ideas about how it could look, how can we make it efficient, is the city favorable towards it? We started just having conversations, and that led us to today. And so I brought with me Tyson of Arcturus, he's our architect on the project, and Todd with CMT Engineers, he's our civil engineer on the project. We're still doing a lot of research on all this, but we're very favorable. We've had a huge feasibility study done on the project. We've met with the city several times about it as well, and we've done our homework on it. We feel like we kind of have our ducks in a row on it, and I feel real good about it if we can make it happen, and I appreciate your time this evening.
Could you pull up that? Good evening. As Art said, I'm Tyson Pyle. I'm an architect and director of architecture for Arcturus. We're a design firm here in St. Louis. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the project and then field any questions you guys might have afterwards. Great, thank you. So this is, as Art says, a 99-unit luxury apartment building. Market rate, it's approximately 90,000 square feet on 4 stories. So it's wood construction, on grade. It's a courtyard style building, so in the middle of the building is all the outdoor amenities, so grilling station, fire pits, patio, stuff like that. It's also an internal corridor building, so this isn't a breezeway walk-up. It's an elevator building, so it's very controlled, and I can show you a few slides here in a second. And then to the north, we have our secured parking, and then to the south, we have the green space. So just some context photos. I'm sure we're very familiar with the site. The existing pad is a vacant retail pad that was early on meant to have a retail use, but now we want to have a mixed use, apartment use. Site plan here, what we're seeing is, excuse me, I can't really read it from here, but you can see what we have our 3 acres on the west, and it shows you how much parking we have to the east, which is approximately 1,200 parking spaces. We have 102 dedicated, with the remaining 96, I believe, shared with the rest of the parking fields. Quick site plan. Zoomed in, you can see the footprint of the building with the parking to the north. Trash and loadings to the rear with a dog run, and more of that green space to the south as well. Typical floor plan, you can see that the U shape of the building on the west half, we have our main lobby entry point with the elevator, stairs on either side, and again, this is that courtyard. This is the internal corridor style building, so all the units open indoors, so it's a very secure style building. Aerial view showing how it relates to the rest of the shopping center. It fits right into, like I said, that final west parcel. Architecturally, we're trying to get something that's very approachable, very much to scale, feels comfortable within the development, but also have its own character. As you can see, it's primarily a fiber cement building with brick on the first floor, and then we have these shed-like dormer accents on the edges to help give it a bit of character, visible from the highway and also from multiple approaches. Again, another view from the northeast, or excuse me, northwest. And here's a nice view of what it will look like right there in that courtyard feel with the primary entry on that west wing. Parking for delivery, a couple spaces up front to facilitate those needs. And then, have a nice look and feel that will complement the center. This slide just illustrates the kind of materials we intend to use. Like I said, a lot of fiber cement, earth tones, warm taupes, help tie it all together. Each of these is an elevation of the building, so you can see it's, like I said, architecturally we try to break it up, but still remain relatively approachable is the best term I like to use for it. A nice view of our trash enclosure, totally screened all sides, masonry with a metal gate. And here's an elevation how this building would relate to the shops right next to it. So this was just a statement, if you want to read deeper into what we intend to do, but the goal here is that we really want a quality development. We want a place where people enjoy living, an asset to Warrington, an asset to the shops, and to turn what was a struggling retail center into a mixed-use center. I mean, that's the real goal here. So that is sort of all I have right now. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I will again have questions as it comes up later in the agenda. A couple of quick ones. By the way, really nice looking project. One and two bedroom, no 3-bedroom, correct?
Currently, we're not programmed in 3 bedrooms, so it's ones and twos.
And projected rent?
Ooh, that's an owner question.
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, there'll be, obviously, I like to get the highest rent we can
Right.
possibly get.
Right.
But right now, our feasibility studies tell us $1.50 per square foot up to about $1.75 per square foot is the rate today. Now, interest rates have crept up a little bit. That's affecting things. It's certainly affecting our cost in the project. So we're hoping rents will be a little bit higher than that, but we're not.
What is that?
Yeah,
So
what is that?
so roughly, let's say, we have a studio that's between 500 and 600 square feet. It'll probably go for around just under $1,000 a month.
Okay.
Our 2 beds, 2 baths will be higher priced, obviously. The largest one we have, I think, is over 1,200 square feet.
Just about.
And it was running between $1,800 and $1,900 a month, roughly. So that's kind of our range. We have actually, I think it's either 3 or 4 different 1-bedroom sizes and 3 or 4 different 2-bedroom sizes. So for me to give you all the rents off the top of my head, I just can't remember them all. But that was kind of the range. And I am penciling these out constantly as the interest rates are changing, and I'm just watching things and what if this, what if that. So I'm constantly monitoring it. But I haven't changed the scope of our finishes or the type of product we want to do, even with interest rates going up. They've literally doubled since I've had my first conversation with the city council about this about 6 months ago. It's amazing how fast they're moving. So we're trying to hold it all together and keep our fingers crossed. We actually don't think we're going to make any money for the first couple of years, but if it helps the shopping center, we're willing to do it as a loss leader for at least for a couple of years and then get it all going, and hopefully they'll help each other out and things will kind of rise up as Warrington grows.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, public comments. Do we have any public comments from anybody out there? No public comments. We'll proceed. Okay, we have the minutes from September.
Do the public comments for the subdivision,
Oh, okay.
the next item.
Okay, the Promenade, okay, public comments. We've gone through the public comments, and now we have,
You have the public comments for the Promenade at the shop subdivision, SUPD 105,
okay, I need to read that, okay.
and then Tim will present.
What'd you say?
I'll present that.
He'll make his comments for the meeting.
Okay, comments for the meeting?
The Promenade at the Shops, preliminary plat, SUBD 105. The applicant, Art King, Promenade at the Shops LLC, has submitted an application for the preliminary plat to subdivide 3.01 acres of land from the 30.01 acres located at the 1,000 Warrington Shops, along with the zoning change applicant to rezone the parcel to PUD, a planned unit development. This parcel of land is located directly east of the Rural King store and west of the Warrington Shops, and is not in the retail overlay district. The property is currently zoned C3 highway commercial, and the applicant has submitted an application for a PUD, planned unit development, for a proposed 99-unit apartment complex. Excuse me. Open areas are included on the site. Section 410.150 requires residential projects to provide a park area and open space accessible to the public, or in lieu of thereof, at the option of the city, a payment of money in the amount of accordance with the defined schedule. While open areas are provided, these areas do not provide areas accessible to the public. Therefore, payment into the special park fund will be required prior to signing of the final plat. The proposal is consistent with Chapter 410, subdivision regulation of Warrington Municipal Code. All items and notices are required by state and local law have been provided and completed. That's all I have. This goes along with the PUD that we just presented. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Ask if the applicant would like to.
Would the applicants like to make any comments?
You could just say it goes with what you did before if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes with
We'll start with not public. Is there any public comments?
Is there any public comments out there, anybody?
All right.
Hearing no comments, we'll move on. So I guess we should go to the minutes from the September 1st, 2022 Pnz meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as noted for the September 1st meeting.
Seconded.
Motion by
Motion by
Mr. Cullum.
Mr. Cullum and
Cooper.
Mr. Cooper.
and seconded by Mr. Cooper. And then you say roll call vote. You say roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Jason Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton is absent, Mr. Durbin,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest is absent, Mr. Dieterman,
Yes.
Mr. Cornell,
Yeah.
Mrs. Cheryl Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Motion passes 6-0 with one abstention, 2 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Obviously, I might have to start paying more attention. Okay, I guess we go on to the second amendment down here. The Nardash Amendment Site Plan.
Amended site plan.
So this is the Neardash LLC amended site plan 161. Neardash LLC has applied for administrative site plan and modified the original site plan for the C-store located on 2.81 acres of land on the west side of Highway 47 and north of Warrior Avenue. The original site plan shows a gas station with a convenience store, restaurant, car wash, and had the following conditions: provide a stormwater management plan prior to land disturbance, verifying compliance with the city regulations. Car wash hours is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. The original site plan shows a right turn in and right turn out only for egress and ingress for southbound Highway 47 into the site. MoDOT advised the applicant by email that the entrance located for the site was acceptable at the beginning of the process. The applicant engineer, Bart Corman, advised me, MoDOT had advised the applicant that they could not have that entrance to the site from southbound Highway 47. The applicant is requesting to modify the site plan by removing the southbound ingress, egress to the site from Highway 47. We've got a representative here from Lewis and Beatty that can explain everything that's going on with that. Do you have any questions for me?
I do. So I've had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Corman, with some other people that represent this development. I guess my concern is if the CUP has, the site plan is baked into the CUP and the CUP is baked into the site plan. It's my belief that when we alter the site plan, then there no longer is a CUP. Because, again, if we're making this alteration, how do we square that with the conditional use permit has the site plan as part of the application? When you change the site plan, it seems to me like we're back to square one.
Well, our code allows for the site plan to be administratively modified. There was no conditions on the prior to, on the conditional use or the site plan that had to deal with the right in, right out only for that egress and ingress from Highway 47.
I understand that there is no conditional use stated in it, but the site plan is part of, you have to submit a site plan as part of the process, correct, for obtaining a CUP. So to say that ingress egress wasn't a conditional use, of course it wasn't a conditional use. It is part of the site plan. So again, I come back to, well, let me back up. I drive by it every day. I'm actually pretty excited to see the progress because I think this is going to be a great addition to the neighborhood. I also have great concerns about eliminating 50% or more of the access to this site and what that's going to mean to this project. As you all may recall, we had a couple of nights of full houses of comments and concerns about this project. And now it seems we are being asked to make a pretty substantial change to this project without hearing from the public. In fact, I think there's precedent here. As I recall, this was approved by Pnz, came before the board. I can't remember if it was approved or not, but somewhere in there, the developer decided they wanted to change. I think they added one more pump, one more, and the board sent it back, and we went through the process because of that alteration, which isn't near as large of a change to the site plan as this is. And quite honestly, to have this put in our laps Monday, Tuesday, and it was simply this drawing with the red hash marks, and there had to be clarification made after that. I would like to find a way to meet the public's expectation on this for transparency. I would like to find a way to, as quickly as possible, find resolution for the developer, because I understand he's losing hundreds of thousands of dollars as this hangs, but I think we need to do this the correct way. So
if I can for a second here.
Sure.
Our code states that any changes for this must be done within 30 days. So it has to go back to Pnz, that's where we're at tonight, and then it goes to the board. So that we're following our code for this process. So that when you administratively change the site plan, our code states And it says, site plan submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Aldermen for approval. Said finding of detrimental impact shall be made in writing within 30 days of receipt of application and administrative site plan review. So they just turned that application in this week, so we have 30 days to get it done, per our code. And then when you ask about the conditional use permit, that conditional use permit is for the car wash. The gas station itself, that's a permitted use in this zone. And I understand what you're saying, that the conditions, the same conditions mirror the conditional use permit and the site plan, so that way it's covered both ways. But, so that's where we're at on, we're here tonight because we have to do this in 30 days because it's a substantial or a detrimental impact to the project.
I have a question. You said, what was the reason that they're taking this off? Oh.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll just give you a real quick breakthrough of how this all developed. So we came through all this for approval back in November, December of last year. We had an initial email from MoDOT, sent them a drawing, said, hey, is everything favorable with this location? Oh, sorry, Brandon with Lewis and Beatty. I'm sorry, I forgot to do that first. Back in, just on December 2nd, we received an email from Cindy at MoDOT that says, I do not see an issue with the entrance on 47. I'm sorry, November 3rd. November 3rd, receive an email that says, I do not see any issue with the location. So normally what happens, in my 19 years of doing this, that's always been good enough till you get to the permit level. Your actual MoDOT permit has to be granted to the contractor. It has to go to the paving contractor because they're required to put up a bond because they do work inside of the state right away. So we get to that point about a month and a half ago. We start filling in the bond. We send all this in. Really don't hear anything for a while. So we're like, well, MoDOT's busy. They're at the end of their fiscal year. They're burning a lot of vacation. Apparently they were doing a lot of work with the state fair. So that's kind of the answers we were getting. We finally get a reply back that says, hey, we don't think this is going to work. The higher ups have said we don't think this is going to work. So that all comes down about 2 weeks ago. So we get with them, we schedule a powwow phone call with MoDOT owners, contractors, everybody to discuss this, to try and make this happen any way possible. And so that phone call happened last Thursday, so a week ago today, just before lunch. I believe it was an 11 a.m. phone call. So we're all on the phone call, trying to do whatever. Can we go down to a right only? No. Can we give you additional right of way? No. Can we do anything? No. So they're saying the only approved location for an entrance there is no approved location to this site, and the only approved location to the site to the north is directly across from Whispering Pines Lane, where they put in a little asphalt patch, basically whenever they put the stoplight in. Mm-hmm. So that's beyond, it's 500 feet beyond our property, beyond our site, and really, as someone that's familiar with it, John, you probably know that's not a very good street. The best spot would probably be across from the church, I think. Sure. Because you're right at the top of the hill. Sure. But either way, so they pretty much said this isn't happening. So after the phone call, we talked it out, and then we called to set up a meeting to let the city know, let Tim and Brandy and everybody know what was going on. First meeting we could get was Monday morning, and it was 9?
9 or 10.
9 or 10, something. First thing Monday morning, we have the meeting, we discuss this, and that's where it was decided that we needed to go through this administrative site plan process. And so like I said, in almost 20 years, I've never seen it where MoDOT says this is fine, and then almost an entire year later, the higher-ups change their mind.
So there's only one entrance and one exit.
We're proposing a right-in, right-out as you slip right around the corner as a right-in for people to come in, and then there'll be a full access behind the future car wash, so just to the left, off the left edge of the screen.
Both off of Warrior Avenue.
Off of Warrior Avenue, yes. No entrance at all off, no entrance or exit off of Highway 47 is what we are requesting.
So MoDOT, what I'm hearing is MoDOT says, yeah, you can have it, and then he said, no, we don't want it anymore, take it out.
MoDOT preliminarily says we don't see any issue with it. So between November of last year and September of this year, somebody saw an issue with it. And that's, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And like I said, I've never seen this happen.
So there's
before.
still 2 entrance exit.
There is 2 entrances but 1 exit. The same, you'll have the same exit to the stoplight as you had before, and the same entrance from Warrior. Does this have a laser on it?
Yeah. But they won't be able to see it.
Oh, can you see on this one? Oh,
She won't be able to see it. She won't see it up there either.
okay. So anyway, so there's the same access on the south side. You have a right in, right out on Warrior, and then to the left of there you have a full access in and out.
And that road's still going to wrap around to the other side as well.
Yeah.
So
So
if you
the
go-
road
keep
the
going to
road
the
is
north.
still going to that internal road is still going to connect up to the north to any future development on the property to the north of there, and it's still going to curl around into the north side of there. But it's just not going to, about like what Bart drew there, it's just not going to have that entrance, that right in, right out to 47.
And then what I'm hearing also is this, what is it, conditional use permit? This does not affect that?
So as part of the, so a site plan and a conditional use, just like John said, they kind of go hand in hand. So they're cousins or relatives. They both, one is dependent on the other. So what we're requesting is that you amend the site plan that basically both of those are referencing.
Again, well, let's back up. I have had the opportunity to speak with Bart a couple times. I was really hoping he would be here tonight. So MoDOT has said no. Is there an appeal process?
You can go to the state transportation committee, but you have to have a recommendation from the MoDOT engineer, your district's engineer, and she's the one that's saying no.
You're saying you can't make an appeal without the engineer signing off on it?
You can, but
it's an uphill battle.
It's a very, very, very uphill battle.
I mean, it'd be like trying to see the Supreme Court overturn.
Well, yeah, it would be akin to somebody getting turned down 10-0 on P&Z and then saying, well, I'm just going to go ask the Board of Aldermen for their approval.
That just happened last month.
Well, that's true.
So here's my thing. You all are coming to us and asking us to change before you haven't exhausted all of your remedies.
Yes. Now, the other thing is they only meet, I think it's either quarterly or semi-annually, so it very well may be 3 months before they have another meeting.
Okay. And then there's another remedy, which is that access across from Whispering Pine. So you guys could explore accessing the property from there.
And that is something they are looking into, but again, that requires
time,
money, purchase. The neighbor may just say no.
They might. And again, I want to come back to, this is a really good project that I want to see happen. But the mess that this is potentially going to make on Warrior Avenue, it's not just eliminating an access point, okay? So if southbound vehicles, the idea is they're going to exit into there. But now, if they want to access this, they're going to have to get in the stack at the stoplight, correct?
For the right turn.
For the right turn. So let's say we have 20 cars southbound, all right? and 5 of them were gonna go in. Now we're gonna have that 20 stacked up at that light, either to go straight or to make a right turn, which is also, it's gonna slow down the path through that light. It's going to back up the ability for cars to, if those 5 cars are out of that stack and they're onto the property, it gives you more access, more cars can get into the left turn lane onto Warrior. I will tell you what my big fear is. There is going to be a stack up coming out when they can only go in and they can only go out onto Warrior.
I don't understand.
So Bob stops in and gets his coffee and his donut, and now he needs to get over to the high school. He's got to come off of Leo Drive, I think is what they're going to call it, that private roadway.
Okay.
He's got to make a left. There's only so many cars that can stack up there at that light on Warrior going east.
East or north, yeah.
Right.
If you were going straight or if you were making the left.
So as the volume of cars comes out of there and there's no room to go left, where am I going to go? I'm going to make a right, and I'm either going to go down and I'm going to make a right turn into the pool parking lot and I'm going to come back, or I'm going to circle all the way back around and I'm going to come out on Bruni Parkway and I'm making a right, and that's how I'm going to get out. This is not just eliminating an access point. This changes the traffic pattern. What was MoDOT's reason for turning this down? And do we have it in writing?
We have an email. So first off, we'll talk quickly about the stacking.
Okay.
So the westernmost entrance is the east side of the western entrance, the one they would be exiting on, is about halfway. It's about in the middle of Rogerio's back drive, if you're familiar with that, on the aerial, the neighbor to the south.
The east side of the west. Oh, I'm very familiar with that.
With Rogerio's back drive, I guess.
It's where they've cut and making the access to the property now, correct?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yep.
So it's roughly 200 feet back from the stoplight. So you got 8 to 10 vehicles can stack in there in both the left lane and the straight through lane. You know, I don't know that 16 cars are going to be going through there before a light cycles. I don't know.
I bet the developer hopes so.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, especially at peak times in the morning, you know, when people are turning left into the school, because we have to wait, but that's a whole nother deal. There's plenty of turnover on that light.
This proposal included a restaurant, correct?
Correct.
And we don't know what that is.
Correct. And I don't know.
And I've talked to the developer, and they don't know. Correct. And I'm good with that. What happens if that's a Dunkin' Donuts? What happens if that's a Scooter's Coffee or a Panera?
Well, it will be it has a drive-through.
It's a drive-through.
It's going to be a drive-through.
So the volume of this is set up for high volume of vehicles. And again, I come back to what was MoDOT's concern? Because if it's a safety concern, then what it tells me is they're shifting the safety concern from 47 onto Warrior Avenue.
Right. So MoDOT likes everything to be at a lighted intersection, if at all possible, because and so basically what it comes down to is when that was acquired from the previous owners, there was the first stretch there. There's a stretch there to where there's no access. Period. You cannot have any access. Period. So we're beyond that into what they call a limited access, which means that you can have an access, you just have to jump through a few extra hoops. And that's what they're saying is, so I mean, they have their reasons, and they just don't want any more traffic on 47.
But have they issued a finding and a written reason? I can't imagine that they've just called or emailed and said no. There has to be some kind of formal communication in this process to turn this down.
Not really, because I mean, not really. I mean, there's a few emails back and forth that just says, essentially, don't waste your time applying. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, we could, if we pushed for it, we could probably get well, we're going to send in a permit anyway to get a denial, which if we were going to go through with the actual appeal too, we'd probably have to have. But as of right now, we're basically being told, don't even worry about signing the application.
Part of my concern is, again, there has been so much site work done there, so much invested. And I expressed that to Bart the other night in the conversation. And then Bart indicated to me that we knew this was an issue before construction started there. His words, not mine.
So because we had originally requested a full access. When we first brought this up the very first time, we were asking for a full access. And there was some concerns about, it might even been, I wasn't at the Pnz meeting, but I believe there were some concerns from Pnz about, people turning left out of there and causing traffic congestion. And that's when we said, fine, we'll just, we're okay with going down to a right in, right out. So I wasn't a part of the conversation. That's the only thing MoDOT related that I can remember as far as the development went early on was the discussion of we're gonna hope to get a full access because that gives the client the most options, but we may end up with a right in, right out, which is what we had, or we thought we had, up until a week ago.
If I remember right, I think you guys came and it was a recommendation of the Pnz board to make it a right in, right out. And I
believe so.
I believe you changed the plan before the Board of Aldermen meeting.
Yes.
But then you additionally added another pump.
Right.
That's what kicked it back. So when it came back to Pnz,
Right.
It had the right in, right out.
Right.
If I do remember
that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I remember as well.
So how do we fix this and move forward and gain access other than just off of Warrior Avenue, or just as depicted on these drawings? How do we solve the access and egress and still find a way to move this project along?
So what we have shown is, and it's not really, what we have shown is we have that north-south corridor. I don't remember what street name did you say they were gonna?
I heard it was gonna be Leo Drive,
Okay.
yeah, whatever
Okay,
that is. Yeah.
So basically did this cut it off? It cut it off on the construction plan. You'd have to look at but if you look at the subdivision, that road,
Goes down
that
the
road
road.
continues to the north property line of the entire piece, because this is just one lot of the property that our client owns. So that continues through to the north, which will access the next piece of property. So when that next piece of property develops, they actually own and have control of that slip there at Whispering Pines, across from Whispering Pine Drive. So at that time, if and when that develops, they would either connect that through to tie that all together, and probably tie it all the way up to Bruni. That north-south would probably run all the way up and connect everything in there real nice, and either utilize that existing MoDOT access there, or potentially move that access to a better location, which I feel would be like at the church.
This property on the corner, this landowner owns a piece, now that it's been subdivided, he owns a piece to the north,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And he owns a piece to the west
Yes.
that will now only be accessed off of Warrior Avenue.
Yes, the one to the west was, yes. Yeah.
So this isn't just this project that is going to be congesting Warrior Avenue. Eventually, it will be the rest of this developers, unless and until that other piece of property is developed or obtained and developed, and we run it out to Bruni, or we
Run it
hit
back out to
47.
Correct.
Good thing that piece of property is for sale. I mean, I still come back to how do we as a board, and how does the Board of Aldermen just absolutely eliminate this, go forward with your project without hearing from the community members, without,
Now, question.
I wish we had an attorney present, is what I really wish. Because I have spoken to an attorney on this, and they do indicate that if we alter the site plan, that this is just a moot point, that we need to go back to square one. And I don't want to do that either.
Right.
But
Right, and I believe when we went back to P&Z the second time, after we changed the entrance and the pumps, was there a public hearing the second time? There was. Okay. I couldn't remember if there was or wasn't.
when did the city first become aware that MoDOT, that this was an issue or possible issue with MoDOT?
Last Thursday, when they called me.
There had been no communication before that?
No. And I set the meeting as soon as I could.
I appreciate that.
Was on Monday.
Shall we move forward? Are we going to make a motion or something, or does somebody here want to make a motion, or can I?
Anybody else have any questions?
I'd like to expand a little bit on some of the conversation. And I apologize, I think there's a little bit of a delay on my Zoom connection here. I believe Mr. Cornell's points are pretty significant points, and without having that second point of entry, I have some of the same concerns about the stacking up of traffic over, especially at peak times of travel, particularly in the mornings during the school year. I was trying to just go through my head and think of other similar establishments in the city of Warrington. And I can't think of any that only have a single ingress point. And I'm thinking only of those on 47, but even Casey's has access, full in and out access off of 47, and they have full access in and out off of the side street there, Dahlgren or whatever the side street is. And they don't have a restaurant. They've got, of course, they've got their pizza and they sell food in their kitchen, but it's not a drive-through style. My concern is that not knowing what the restaurant might be, if it's a restaurant that serves breakfast, and in particular is open, the drive-through is open at the same time that school buses and vehicles are going to turn left, or well, I guess I should say go east on Warrior Avenue, we're going to have a disaster of traffic. I can't see how a high traffic time of day at the start of the school morning that it's going to work to have this redesigned the way that the MoDOT is now limiting this. And I really feel like we need to have some understanding of what the restaurant is going to be. I think we need to have some understanding of what the hours of operation of the restaurant would be. And in particular, if there's no other way around this, and I understand that this is no fault of the developer, that MoDOT has apparently changed their opinion. But if we're going to move forward, I really think that there has to be some kind of a restriction in the form of a conditional use on the restaurant portion so that it's not open prior to a certain time of day, so that all of the traffic in and out of the schools can be out of the way. Now, I don't know how we accomplish that, but I really feel like to simply push this forward without taking those things into account would be a dereliction of our duty.
Do we have legal course of action? I mean, we don't have a lawyer right now, but we don't get him till the 10th.
We're still under contract with our old lawyer, but he just couldn't make it tonight, so.
Is that something we can get an answer for within 4 days? I don't know, I don't know.
Could he not, was the attorney not available tonight, or was he not consulted? Because I consulted him.
I mean, his contract goes through today, so he's not here. I can't answer that question.
Right, and again, this, another one of those just
Perfect storm.
perfect storm type deals, like, when's the last time that we had an issue come up between city attorneys? You know, I mean.
Right.
It's just one of those things that's just like,
How can we keep this on track how can we table this tonight but keep it on track? Whether that is another special meeting, whether that is, again, I don't want to go back into a 60-day cycle, but I do think that we have some due diligence to do here, and we need some resolution. We talk about, and again, I understand from all parties that it's the time frame that was handed to us. It got thrown on Monday, here we are on Thursday, but that doesn't mean that that's all the time we had, so we should make a decision. I think, I mean, again, I believe that there's other avenues that can be explored. I would certainly, if we're going to eliminate this, I would want to see a traffic study done to see what experts say this is going to be an impact. And
How can you have a traffic study if you don't know what traffic's going to be? I mean,
that's why you hire a
company. For? I don't understand why. I mean, there's nothing on Warrior Ridge as your main entrance, right?
Warrior Avenue?
Yes, that's your main entrance.
Yes.
You have two entrances on Warrior Ridge?
There's a right in, right out on Warrior, and there's a full access.
So technically, okay, you got
Yeah.
three technically if you want to go that way. But either way, that seems like, to me, it should be more than adequate amount of traffic.
If it was more than
Get in and
adequate,
out
then
of
why
there.
did we insist on 47 before? If it was already adequate, why was 47 an ingress and egress before?
It was an ingress and egress before because I think everybody agrees it would be the best in and out.
Right.
And of course that's what the client wants. It's, but
Right.
that avenue has been, if not completely taken away, it's not something that can be acquired in any sort of a timely manner, if at all.
It could be years before you actually get that.
It could, it could be.
Not for a traffic study. Traffic study
No,
doesn't
well,
take years.
yeah, but
We just sat in a joint meeting with the Board of Aldermen last week, and we talked about not rushing projects through, that we no longer have to be the person that's taking every project that comes our way. We owe it to the citizens of this community to make sure that these decisions are made with the due diligence. And we also owe it to the developer to do everything in our power to make sure that he can make this happen, since we've already approved it. But that is not simply rubber stamping, eliminating 50% of the access, I would argue more than 50% of the access to this property on 3 days' notice, without any input from the community, without any traffic study to determine what the impact is going to be and what the change of traffic pattern is going to be. I'd make a motion to table this until we can get legal counsel's opinion. And I would also, I would make a motion to table. Let me amend my motion, I'm sorry. I would like to make a motion to table this until we get legal opinion on whether or not this voids the conditional use permit and we need to start back on the 60-day cycle. And I would like also, along with that,
Can we add like a clarification on what appeal process would look like from the state? Through that legal counsel,
I'm just guessing, but I don't think we can appeal it through the state.
No? Okay.
we can't, but they can.
So
They can, okay.
I don't mean to cut off in your motion. So What I would, the legal counsel will be on before the next Board of Aldermen meeting, correct?
Yes.
In 4 days.
So,
I think where you're going here, Brandon, is you said something about a special meeting. Is that something you're interested in doing next week?
I'd
Before-
absolutely be. Again, I want to find a way
So-
to move this forward, but answer these questions.
So Rich can call a special meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission, but he has to do that. And obviously, he's not here tonight.
Dan can't do that as a stand-in.
Rich would have to do that because he's,
Does he have to do that during a meeting?
no,
So,
no, he can call it anytime.
you can email it in or call it in.
Yeah, he can call it in. So we
Okay.
can schedule, if everybody's up to it and we can get a quorum next week, we can have a special meeting about this. We'll have legal counsel on board
Yeah, we
then.
can get legal counsel on board, the new hire, okay, yeah.
I'm not trying to push it along,
No,
but that's before
right.
the Board
I
of
was-
Aldermen
yeah,
meeting.
right.
We're lacking the legal counsel
Yeah.
tonight, so I think that could be a viable option if everybody's available.
So right now, the motion on the table is by Mr. Cornell, seconded by Ms. Cheryl Cullum to table the Near Darsh amended site plan, correct?
Until we get legal counsel.
correct.
Yep.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Durbin?
Okay, let me get this straight now. We're gonna take care, table it, and we're gonna make sure that we get everything done before the Alderman meeting?
We're going to do our darndest to get everything done before next
Okay.
board meeting. So we're tabling it.
You want to table the meeting?
No, we're wanting to
Motion.
table this, the Near Darsh,
You want to table the motion?
yes.
Yeah. Thank you for making me first.
You're welcome.
Perfect storm.
And so if I say yes, that means we're tabling the meeting. I'm going to go with no.
All right, Mr. Cooper?
I'm going to go with yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
yes.
Yeah, it was a yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Jason Culp?
Yes.
All right, motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1 with 2 absent, 1 vacancy. So,
And before we
City
move-
staff will
before-
contact Rich and see if he can do the habeas
He
corpus.
just has to call a special meeting. We just need to make sure that we're going to have a quorum to get,
Yeah,
to get it done. I mean,
Before we move
we got to have a
forward-
quorum to have a special
Before
meeting.
we
so-
move forward, I just wanted to ensure that the intent is that we would receive through iPad or through iPhone notification of next week's meeting
yes.
and offer up availability.
Yes.
I don't want something that's been going for 10 months to be stopped. So I want to ensure we're moving forward and that was captured in the meeting minutes and the intent by all that will work for you, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we'll meet whenever.
Okay.
We're going to do a Thursday, is that what, same, is this,
Well,
No, it's whatever day is
whatever day
available.
is available?
You can do whatever, I think it's just whatever you guys are available.
Right.
Technically, the lawyer, I think, is not the new one
Monday, right?
till
Monday.
the
They start
10th.
Monday. Their
Is
contract
that
starts
Monday?
We're not doing it tomorrow.
Right. Monday's when their official
Yeah.
start date.
So Melody's going to facilitate, correct, to get the meeting, everybody's availability?
yes, after we talk to the lawyer and get that all squared away. All right. Next item is ordinance.
See you guys next week.
Thank you, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Tell Mark to come next time.
Does anybody have any questions on this? That was presented?
Concerned about the Arshland and all the farm and homes has tendency of using parking lot space for seasonal stuff.
Oh, like mulch?
Are they intending to do that also, or is that
It's like you read my mind.
good for you?
Yes, there'll be seasonal displays out front, primarily underneath the canopy and along the side. We have gone through a great deal of due diligence with Snooks in an ECR prior to even purchasing this property, and have worked all that out with them and come to an agreement of what we can do and what we can't do and where we can. The whole objective of this is to make both our parking lot and their parking lot look like one. The lighting, the striping, the drive aisles and everything will be identical to what Snooks is doing right now. So,
Is the responsibility to maintaining is also shared?
yes.
Okay.
Where would the, and this may be more towards city, I do, again, not specific to your project, that's just the one that's in front of us. Visiting Rural King, which I do way too often. Probably a third of their parking lot is taken up by seasonal display, but it's not seasonal, it's year-round. I guess my question is, if our code requires this amount of parking spots based on the square footage, then how do we allow them to take up a third of it with display? That, I don't know how you square those two things.
So, actually, the owner, Art King's here tonight of the shops at Warrington there. They actually had an agreement with the shops at Warrington to provide the additional parking spaces. So that's how they got by with that, the reduction of parking spaces because of the agreement with them all.
So how do we,
Here?
yeah, and.
How do you fix it here? Because there's not additional parking spaces
Right.
to do an agreement with. But I think what Mr. Snodgrass said was they're primarily going to be in the overhang. There's going to be nothing in the parking lot?
Very, very little, and it'll be just certain periods during the year.
Can I ask then, because, you know, the comment that you made was that you'd worked it out with Schnooks and that you had an agreement. My concern is that agreement with Schnooks might allow you to do more of that outdoor seasonal display in proposed parking areas than what our code allows. And I remember when the Rural King issue came up, I raised that issue, raised the question about the seasonal display, which, as Mr. Cornell correctly points out, is a year-round occupancy of those designated parking spaces. This development does not have overflow opportunity. And, you know, I feel like we need to have a condition on the site plan that prohibits any outdoor seasonal item displays in any parking spaces or in any driving aisles.
I don't think I heard all of that.
He's proposing that if to limit in a condition to limit anything in parking spaces or driving lanes, any seasonal displays. Is that correct, Scott? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So I just want to make sure I understood what he said. He said, add a condition to limit the outdoor seasonal display from the parking structure, like the parking lot?
The parking spaces.
The parking
Parking
spaces. Okay,
spaces
is
and
there a
driving, yeah.
threshold, like
Designated
a certain
parking spaces.
percentage that you're limiting?
I think he's saying
Well,
zero.
I believe, I'll answer.
I couldn't hear.
If I can. So we have these parking requirements because these type of establishments are attracting a certain amount of traffic, and there's a need to have that much parking available. When we allow a developer or a retailer then to use that parking to display more items, it takes parking away. And while on a Tuesday afternoon that may not be a big deal, on a Saturday morning or afternoon it is a big deal. And I'm simply saying we should be holding these projects to the standard that if it requires 158 parking spaces, that they provide them and that they do not then use them for outdoor merchandise display. Outdoor merchandise display should not be in required parking areas, in my opinion.
So you're saying it's not limited, it's just we're not allowing it?
Right.
Well, since the number of parking spaces is exactly what's required, they don't really have any extra. I'm saying that for this project, they shouldn't be able to put outdoor display on parking spaces that are required just to do the development in the first place. If they had 100 extra parking spaces, then I wouldn't have an issue with outdoor display. But they don't have those extra spaces.
Scott, what's your feeling on, I did notice when I was out at Rural King again, too many times, that they have set up a lot of seasonal displays in that, I don't know what you call it, the island, the buffer, at the end of, kind of that hashed off mark, not the crosswalk, but that hashed off area that wasn't designated for parking spaces. What's your thought on that?
I'm not sure I understand where you're describing.
Basically,
My thought is, and I'm at Rural King quite a bit as well, and Orchland and Rural King attract a lot of the same types of clients. They tend to be clients that drive full-size trucks and full-size SUVs. And the parking spaces are 9 feet wide, not 10 feet wide. And when we go out on a Saturday morning to do what we do and to go patronize these establishments, it's difficult to find a place where you can put your truck. And that's just the fact. And so if they're displaying items in designated parking areas and they don't already have and meet the required minimum parking area requirements, then I don't think outdoor display should be put on those parking spaces.
Any other questions, or do we have, like, are we ready to move on?
If you want to make a motion, feel free.
No, I'm just asking a question.
I would make a motion to approve the site plan as submitted with the conditional use that,
Just a condition.
Condition.
just a condition.
I'm sorry, the condition that no seasonal or outside display be allowed in any of the designated parking spots. And weren't there some city suggestions on?
For the lighting, so the lighting doesn't glare on the traffic on Highway 70.
The lighting as designated by city staff, and that the lighting not only is installed per plan, but it is maintained operational per the site plan.
Second.
I'll second that.
I think Scott seconded that first.
Okay. Scott.
Seconded first.
So we got a motion by Mr. Coleman, or Mr. Cornell, seconded by Mr. Costello. The site plan with condition of limited outdoor seasonal merchandise has to be in the non-required parking spots, is that right?
Yes.
And then the lighting as indicated by city staff. Any changes to that? Sound right?
Sounds right. Sounds good.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Next item.
Next item is the Promenade at Shops, planned unit development, ZCPUD 88.
Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I do have a question for you, Tim. On this one, the city 5-year plan, did you say that it fell within the city's 5-year plan?
For the comp plan, no.
It did not.
Not for the comprehensive plan. No,
Okay.
it did not.
Thank you.
So on this one, is the same parking that's for the, oh, wait a minute. You moved it.
I'm not
Yeah,
Ursula,
for,
I mean, Rural King.
yeah, the same parking that was designated for Rural King overflow is the same parking that you're using for the residents.
No, that's not exactly correct. Our whole parking lot Rural King's whole parking lot. We have an ECR that gives us full cross access.
Can you get on the
Sir?
mic? I cannot hear you, and it needs to be recorded.
Hi, this is Arthur King again with Raw Walters Properties. To answer your question, we have an ECR with Rural King in the shops where there's cross parking and cross access for the whole parking lot. Right now we have, Tyson, how many parking spots do we have?
1,200.
We have 1,200 parking spots. We're over parked by over 400 parking spaces per city code. So we have more than enough overflow parking.
Are they going to be able to, is this parking area that you have going to be for the apartments?
It's only going to be for the apartments. It'll be exclusive to the apartments. We amended our agreement with Rural King to allow that parking to be fenced in and only accessed with a key fob from the tenants of that apartment complex.
Will you be able to go from Rural King into the other shopping area?
Yes, the drive aisles will remain open as shown on the site plan.
So Rural Kings now, their overflow parking is on the other side of the fenced-in parking, correct? Like in front of the furniture store and that.
Their overflow parking is actually our whole parking lot in the shops. They can park anywhere they want over there. There's no designated area for Rural King to park on our parking lot. They can park anywhere they want on our parking lot. We can park anywhere we want on their parking lot. There's complete cross access.
It's an awful long distance to get to the other side.
Practically speaking, that is correct. Practically speaking, probably their employees park over on our side, so their customers can park close to the store, practically speaking.
Right.
Well, I'm going to take issue a little bit with that. I was there when we talked about the parking issue for Rural King. And I also raised the very same issue about the outdoor display and the fact that Rural King did not have the required number of parking spaces and therefore shouldn't be using parking spaces for outdoor display. And it was absolutely represented that the spaces nearest Rural King would suffice as the overflow. So certainly if apartments go where these are proposed, the spaces directly in front of the apartments would be parking for the apartments. But to say that because you've got 800 additional parking spaces a quarter mile away, that satisfies the overflow excess parking is quite honestly, it's a little bit offensive.
Well, apparently you misunderstood my comments, Counselor. There was no insinuation that people were going to walk a quarter of a mile. The question was, is there cross parking that was exclusive for Rural King's employees and customers? And I clarified the answer by saying they have access to our full parking lot, and we have access to their full parking lot.
But you're still fencing in the parking lot originally that was closest to Rural King, where it was during the time of, I'm not here when this was approved, so.
That is correct.
During the time of approval was the overflow. So you're saying now you're moving the overflow after all the fenced in.
You're misunderstanding as well, ma'am. That's not the only overflow. That's maybe 1/10 of the overflow for Rural King's parking. So if the employees are practically speaking parking where we want the apartment tenants to park, then the employees might have to park on the other side of the fence in front of the furniture store and walk 40 feet further than they're walking now. But quite frankly, we're not getting any customers parking over on our parking lot that walk all the way over to Rural King that I'm aware of. And I don't think our customers are parking on their lot, actually, practically speaking, either.
I had some questions and comments about the apartments.
Yes, sir.
Number one, very attractive apartments.
Thank you.
I want to come to, well, we have recently approved about 400 apartments in the city of Warrington, maybe 500. Those have been brought to us as cost-effective housing, let's say, not the luxury end. But each one of those per unit had well above the amenities that are cited on your plan. So although there may be luxury finishes on the interior and the exterior, I don't believe that the amenities are there. This looks like it's modeled, and it sounds like the thought is something similar to Crossroads down at Wentzville by Sugar Fire, which is a really cool concept, and it's coming out. But I don't see the amenities there for the for what you're asking to put in. I understand the thought process of you're trying to develop this commercially, and there aren't the rooftops that are planned. I do believe that the rooftops are coming. We've approved 500 apartments, 400, 500 apartments, several hundred single-family residences within the community. So I think those rooftops are coming. When we first did this redevelopment, there were tax incentives for the overpass, for the development of the mall. Mutually beneficial. It benefited the city and it benefited the developer. But if we take, by Raul Walter's own website, when they call out these two sites that are proposed for apartment and parking, 2 of the 4 remaining sites that are called out for future restaurants. So now it's almost like we don't have the rooftops to bring the development. So now we're going to create the rooftops, but we're eliminating some of the potential development for the commercial. And I come back to, I'm going to be very careful when it comes to the Chapter 100. I've tuned into that because I'm kind of a political nerd. So I've watched the Board of Aldermen meeting, and that is a question for the Board of Aldermen, no doubt, not here. But I think it overlaps here. As I watched, I'm not sure it was you, it was maybe your representative said, quote, "The request for an exemption on the construction materials is something we need to make the numbers work." So if that is needed, where that overlaps into Pnz, I think, is if you need that to make the numbers work, it tells me that you are not able, that this project is not able to stand on its own and charge the rent required to support it, which tells me, is there a need or a desire for this in the community? My thought is, if the other developers built, I'd say not quite as nice as this, but they built nice stuff too, and they didn't require that because they know that the volume is going to be there, the market is going to be there. And it makes me wonder if the market is there, and I'm the one beating the drum for a luxury type of apartment building. I just wonder if you need financing assistance or the economic assistance to put this in, is the market there for them?
The other concern I have is the location, because it is zone commercial, and there was originally promises of more, restaurants or any, for this area. And we go there all the time because we love the restaurant. But I have not seen improvements on the, the parking, or slow improvements on, the tenants. So if we are putting luxury apartments, you really need to match that luxury with your existing building. And I haven't seen really, confidence building decision maker on if that is going to be, like that.
I also haven't, I'm surprised John hasn't brought it up yet, but there is nobody that we've let apartments come in that we've had such little green space. And I'm surprised John hasn't jumped on that, because that's one of his favorite topics.
I was waiting for you to do it, Dan. I was going to be the swimming pool guy, and you were going to be the green space guy.
Excuse me, but I haven't heard a question yet. All I hear
okay, I'll give you a question.
So is there a specific question?
I'll give you a specific question.
You just want to give speeches. I don't mean to be.
How come we have no green space in this, I take that back. How come we have a minimal green space in this development when we're having the other people put in almost 50% of their property in.
You can ask Tim Burks, who said that we qualified and met the green space requirement. The landscape requirement, is that what you're speaking about? The
Not
landscape
the
No,
landscaping,
amenities.
no.
You're talking about the open
I'm
requirement?
talking about the amenities for the people who are living in the places, the place for kids to play, the place for
We're not
activities.
marketing to kids. We're marketing to young professionals and empty nesters. We're not marketing to young
We're
families.
not going to have any kids then.
I didn't say we're not going to have any kids. I said we're
Well,
not marketing to kids. That's
what
why
we're
we don't have
supposed to do. We're gonna-
playgrounds.
I think the one thing you have is where they play by the railroad tracks.
Was the play by the railroad tracks?
Isn't
You
that
just
where
said we
your-
don't have a
Isn't that where
playground.
part of your green space is?
Yeah, but you said we don't have a playground for kids. Now you're telling me kids are going to play by the railroad tracks? Which one
where are
is
they
it?
gonna play?
Which one is it, Dan?
Where are they going to play? I
Okay,
was just
okay,
asking-
let's hold for a minute.
Okay.
Everybody take a big, deep breath. I did want to note the fact of what you stated, and the fact that this is currently zoned commercial. I do recall at the time with this, with Rule King coming in and with the overpass, there was more discussion about businesses moving into this area to draw more individuals into the area. So I too have the reservations of what you stated. So,
I can speak to that, I believe, if I'm allowed to.
what he was talking about was green space, and I think that we can talk about that as the next one. But if you want to address that one first, sir, then we can talk about the green space topic.
Okay. We've been marketing, we have 4 pad sites. I'm the one who developed the Rule King site plan to coincide with our shopping center to bring in that anchor. We were hoping, we're having trouble even getting the front 2 pad sites for commercial. The back corner, although we feel like it's commercial, it is a very, very tough, I'm on the leasing side quite a bit. It is a very tough piece of land to get a retailer to go back in that corner. I personally don't think it's going to happen. It's zoned commercial. It's all been zoned commercial forever. This was part of the original shopping center, this land. It's always been commercial. I just never changed it, but we were hoping to get restaurants on all 4 of those pad sites, but I don't see one going back in that corner. Rule King doesn't particularly want their visibility blocked by a restaurant going on the pad site in the middle where we showed the parking for the apartments. So we've had a lot of conversations with them. They agreed to that apartments were the highest and best use for that particular lot back in that corner because none of us feel like a restaurant's going to go back there or any type of retail. I still have some vacant spaces left in the shopping center that I'm trying to lease up. So adding additional commercial space back there that's just sitting there vacant isn't going to do any good either. So we were trying to think of the highest and best use. We thought it would help bolster the shops if we got apartments in there. We're just trying to make it work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I understand that. I mean, let's face it, that has been commercial for 25 years. How many ever years that it's been commercial? And it's still not. So the argument can certainly be made if it had commercial potential, somebody would have developed it. But I do feel like that this would not be necessarily an alteration of the original plan, but kind of an abandonment of the original plan for that development.
We were hopeful that bringing in a residential component to that shopping center would actually help bolster the sales of that whole shopping center, increase the tax revenue, increase the job base, because I think if the 2 front pad sites out by the outer road would be more likely to sell or lease up with restaurants or something if there's apartments behind it. I mean, we're pretty much seeing it all over the country. Mixed use is working, and that's what's driving retail, is to have rooftops close by. And even though apartments aren't necessarily houses, they are residences.
Hey, Scott, before anybody else speaks, and since no one can hear you and everybody has to be really quiet, do you have anything at this time?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I would say, I don't have any objection to apartments necessarily in the commercial zone. My issue strictly is, it lies with the fact that whether Mr. King agrees with me or not, the parking spaces that are being allocated for these apartments were absolutely represented to be the overflow spaces that would be used by Rural King. It was represented and presented that way in the meeting. I understand that the written agreement doesn't stipulate where overflow parking is, but the reality is we all knew when we sat there in that meeting that this parking area for these proposed apartments was Rural King's overflow area. I'm also a little concerned that, we've had conversations about density in apartment complexes and talked about no more than 8 to 10 units per acre. And now we've got over 30 per acre on this particular development. I've got a little bit of an issue with that because it's totally inconsistent with all the conversation we've had in our last several months of meetings on apartments. So I'm just going to have a hard time being able to get past that.
Should we go on to section 5?
What?
Promenade, or do we need to make anybody else want to make any comments about this?
I think we have to have a motion on
Call for a motion.
number 4. And
Do we need, okay, let's call for a motion on the promenades at Shops Plan Unit Development, ZCPUD-88.
Before we do make a motion, I just wanted to, as a side discussion, so Scott, in talking with that and the amount of structures per acre that we've been going back and forth on the numbers, was there variability on that whenever it was built up? This is the first one that I've seen that's 4 stories, so that's the reason why I didn't have as much grief with it. So, but I might not be recalling that correctly.
This is the
I can
PUD.
only answer for, I can only speak for what I guess my interpretation would be. Apartments, and Mr. King correctly stated, I think this apartment complex would certainly be attractive to young professionals. I don't think that this is the type of development that we would expect to see a lot of family and young children living in. So when we've talked about density in these other developments, whether they were 2-story or not, the green space, the open area for kids to play in was certainly much more of, in my mind, that was the reason why we wanted to see more green space, more recreation area. And I can concede that a 4-story unit that's marketed more to adults without children would not need the same types of recreation spaces. It's still a pretty major departure. We're going triple what we've entertained in the past, and so that's still that's a big bite to take out of that apple, in my opinion.
John, what were you saying?
So this is still the new PUD process. So what we passed a few months ago, this is that process. So when you talk about the minimum or the maximum density per acre, that's kind of off the plate when it comes to the PUD process. So that's why,
that's
and the
still
4
one
stories part, that's the
one
PUD
for-
process. You're
Hard for me to swallow.
Yes.
So I like the black and white, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to ensure that there was that discussion of the 4 stories up and the acreage and how many per.
Since it's being presented in the new PUD process, that's why
Right.
it meets the code. So
Is 4 stories allowed in our code?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
I'd like to make a motion to pass the Promenade of the Shops Planned Unit Development, PUD 88.
I'd like to second that.
Motion by Mr. Jason Cullum, seconded by Mr. Cooper to approve the ZC/PUD-88. Roll call vote, Mrs. Cheryl Cullum,
No.
Mr. Costello,
No.
Mr. Cullum, Mr. Jason Cullum,
I made a motion, and you can still vote in the opposite of the motion made. No.
Mr. Durbin,
No.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Biederman?
No.
Mr. Cornell?
No.
Motion failed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 to 1, but 2 absent and 1 vacancy.
So that makes 5A moot, correct?
It's up to the applicant.
Oh.
It would
The
be
site plan.
subdivision.
Subdivision.
No, we still would like to proceed with that.
Subdivide?
Yep.
Section 5, promenades at the shops subdivision, SUB D 105.
So this is subdividing that one piece right here.
Subdividing and rezoning it as PUD, correct?
No.
Or just subdividing?
Just subdividing it. Because that is technically part of.
Right.
Of the mall.
The mall.
So this is just breaking
part of
that
the
piece
entire
off the
mall.
mall.
So when you subdivide, it's going to be independent from the
It's gonna
current,
be its separate lot.
yeah, the current,
Separate lot.
okay.
It's going to have the same zoning until the zone changes. So
Okay.
it's going to, if the subdivision goes through but the PUD doesn't, it's still going to be the same zoning, just going to be a subdivided piece.
So how would that impact the shared parking agreement? I guess it wouldn't. You could have,
He's provided us with the shared parking agreement, even if it is subdivided, that I believe the agreement would cover the entire parking lot, like he's been stating.
That would only be, that would only be talking about the space that's not processed right now, the green space that's there, right?
No.
It's
What
the
you
whole
see on
other
the,
section.
on the,
Oh, it would be the whole section, even
Yeah.
the parking?
Whole section.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
the L thing.
because there is this shared agreement.
Think it's right.
We can say that it doesn't impact, and practically, maybe it doesn't. That just doesn't, I guess I don't understand the purpose or of the subdivision.
I
Would
can't,
it be for a subdivision at a later date that it could be sold to another individual? Could something like that happen? Okay.
I can't see, I can't see separating those two pieces of property.
But if there's business sense for it, in his mind or
Yeah.
others, they can subdivide it.
But then if we do that, then we're basically taking away that other area, in my opinion.
If this was subdivided, so this is part of this entire parcel is part of a special taxing district, correct? If this is subdivided and eventually changed hands, would that change anything with those prior agreements?
I don't know. I wouldn't.
that'd be a lawyer question.
Is that
Yeah,
like
it'd
a
be a
lawyer
lawyer
question? Oh, which we don't have till the 10th.
It's coming up, right?
Can we add that to the list?
If it's subdivided, I own the shop still. I own the land where the proposed apartments are in the parking lot. So I'll own both of those, and I have the agreement with Rule King. So in the end, it all stays the same.
Unless you sell the subdivided parcel.
Right,
And that probably isn't your intent, but
potentially it could happen.
Anything is possible. It's not for sale. But if it did sell, there has to be a cross-parking arrangement still with the shops and Rule King. They can't just exclude that because it's part of it now. You can't just arbitrarily go in there and do their own thing.
Do we still need answers on the tax thing?
On the what?
The tax question?
The tax question, the TIF question.
What was the TIF question?
If it sells to a different party, if this is subdivided,
It's still in the redevelopment district and it's
That's
still
right.
part of the TIF district.
that's what I was,
Somebody wants to make a motion?
I will make the the motion has to be in the affirmative, is that correct?
Yes.
I will make the motion in the affirmative to approve the subdivision as submitted.
Second that.
I think Scott's got a second.
So we got a motion by Mr. Cornell, seconded by Mr. Costello to approve the Promenade Shop subdivision SUBD-105. Roll call vote. Mr. Cornell?
No.
Mrs. Cullum?
No.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Jason Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
No.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Passes 4-3 with 2 absent and 1 vacancy. And that should come before, I guess,
On the 18th.
Is that everything?
on the 18th.
Yeah,
That should, both of those should be come in front of the board on the 18th.
All right. Close the meeting.
Before we close,
Uh-huh.
thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have someone approach me about the sidewalk on 47. As far as pedestrian traffic versus skateboards, bicycles, is that some, I don't see it anywhere else, but I didn't know because of the extension that's, a mile and a half long, and the only thing on each side of it is, I'm trying to think if somebody is 60 years old out there taking a walk, skateboarders and bicycles come down, they've got nowhere to go really in some of those areas. Is that something that falls to the city as far as for signage, or is it just understood that anyone can use the pedestrian sidewalk? That was just their concern, because some of those areas there's just such a drop off.
So if you put a sign up there that says no skateboard, you're going to have an ordinance to enforce it. You can't just put a sign up with no enforcement capabilities.
Yeah, there's something that I wanted to bring up too, and is the fact that we're putting in the sidewalks, but we're making them so narrow. We wouldn't have a problem if they were a little wider, and I think that's part of the problem. I mean, if we have a person with a bicycle, we don't want them running out in the street. I think we should, in the future, make the sidewalk wide enough that you can easily get 2 people going both ways. The way it is now, it's like a one-person only sidewalk. So
when we build sidewalks, we always we have to make them to ADA specifications. ADA specifications actually say that you can have a sidewalk less than 4 feet wide. You have to have passing zones every so many feet. I don't remember what that number of feet is, but you have to have passing zones every so many feet. So every sidewalk that we've built since ADA's been in effect, really, we have to abide by ADA laws, otherwise we're setting
but you
ourselves up for
can
a
make it
lawsuit.
wider if you want.
You can always make it wider.
Yeah. I just think in the future that...
It always comes down to cost and right-of-way is another big one.
But even still, I think we should think about making them a little wider than we have.
Well, and you said that about an ordinance, so I understand there's not an ordinance in place, but just from my understanding, if asked again, since I live on the north part of 47, so basically there's no ordinance in place for that. But the sidewalk,
Let us check into that,
Yeah,
and then we can get back to you. How about that? Because we don't want to say that there's not, and there might be something in code.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't mind, if you can let us just check into that.
no, I'm running right now as soon as I get home, and I'm gonna get on the phone.
Yeah, I'm not
that's
not
fine.
100%, I've never looked up an ordinance on the sidewalk, other than the specifications of building it, so.
Curious because it makes sense for that one, because I see them in the city, and I mean, within Warrington closer, that, everybody's on the sidewalk, they're walking, skateboard stuff, but that one, there are some areas that just drop off, and he was curious if somebody had to get off to the side, so, anyway, okay, thank you.
Check for bicycles and skateboards.
Yes.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Wait a minute.
Not yet.
Wait, zoning officer's report.
No, nothing on agenda for next month,
Wow.
But we have an
As of right
agenda.
now.
as per.
As of right now.
But we will have one next week at some
We
point.
will have an agenda next week.
Next week, but not next month.
Can we
Okay.
take just a second to talk about possible availability next week so that you guys aren't shooting in the dark, or Rich isn't shooting in the dark?
So what sounds good? Is next Thursday available? Wednesday?
Next Thursday is what, the 13th?
Actually, it's putting because we have to get our reports and stuff for the Board of Aldermen. So if we could do it on Wednesday night, that would be actually a little bit better.
It works for me.
Wednesday works.
That'd be good.
What time?
Wednesday works.
6 or 7? We'll try to do a 6.
6.
What on,
I'll tell you what, and if we do a 6,
I can't be available for Wednesday, so.
okay, but either way, can we call in if we're just going to be having a discussion with the lawyer? Or is it better to have it recorded what we're discussing?
Better to have it recorded. I'm not for sure what's going on with Zoom, why the sound is so bad. This might be something we might have to look into.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. Yeah, we couldn't hear you talk the entire. No, I'm just messing with you.
What's Wednesday? What do you look like Wednesday, Scott?
I'm available.
Good.
Costello's available. Dan
Yeah, I'm
has a
available.
conflict.
Dan does,
Yes,
but everybody
I don't know
else.
what Rich and Phil and,
It's just
oh,
Rich and
we got a
Phil.
vacancy.
We do have a vacancy. All right, so we'll shoot for next Wednesday. If that doesn't work for some reason, the lawyer's not available, then I'll give you another date to look
What
at.
time were you thinking about this?
We're gonna shoot for 6, just to try to get it done.
Yeah.
So Wednesday at 6.
Everybody, yeah.
Should we talk about pizza?
No, let's do an adjournment now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
We are adjourned.